All right, class, we're going to take a look at how to graph data set like number 3 and number 4 of the project if you have really large numbers. So think about those of you that are doing data sets from population or country size, things like that. You're going to get numbers in the millions, okay? And it's going to be a little tricky to graph it in a graph that's going in increments of like tens. So I'm going to give you an example here. I just googled population of countries and the size of the country, and while I was typing that in, Europe came up, and I was like, oh, that makes sense. I should just do that because I only need 12 countries. So it helped me to narrow it down, and then I got this great site that had all the data right there. It was really sweet. I could just get the numbers, no big deal. Here's all the populations. There's all the land area, you know. So I just looked at that. All right. So look at the numbers there. Germany is 83 million. The land size is 348,000. So when I take those data and I put them into my chart, and then I go to graph that, I start to see that these data points are kind of tricky to graph. So here's the deal. So let me take Germany to start. This will cooperate. All right, here we go. So when I go to put in the numbers, right, I can't just copy and paste the whole table in because the formatting in Google Docs doesn't translate to the table here in Desmos. So I'm going to create my own table. So I'm going to the plus sign here at the top left. I'm going to add the table. All right. So here's the table. We've got the equation of the line set up to get our data from this, right? Y1, X1, X1, Y1. They're all lined up, okay? And now I'm going to try to paste in that 83 million, all right? And see what happens when that does that. The commas mess it up. So I'm taking the commas out. Oops. I do that first. All right. Oh my gosh, this is not working out. Okay. So there's the 83 million. I think the other number was 348,000. So we'll put that in there. 348,560. No commas. And notice you can't see that point anywhere, can you? That's 83 million. I'm at 80, not 83 million. So if I really want to find that point, I'm going to have to do some zooming out here. It's going to take a lot to find. Okay. So we're not even there yet. Like I'm zooming out with this. I mean, we've got a little ways to go, don't we? Keep zooming, keep zooming. It's still, we're not even at the hundreds of thousands yet, right? We're getting there. All right. So now we're at 500,000 at my Y, but on the x-axis, not even close, right? So I got to move it all the way over. So we're going to keep moving over. I'm going to click on the graph. We have to get to an X of 80 million. This isn't working out for me, is it? You can zoom out some more. Maybe that'll help. Let's just keep zooming. So you might be able to see now as I keep zooming out, what's happening to my values. They're turning into scientific notation. That's no good, right? We don't want to deal with that. So I'm not going to even find this point unless I get to like 8 times 10 to the 7th. And that's, I mean, do we even want to deal with that? Probably not, right? There's the point. Okay. So there is a better way to see the points. And I think the rule of thumb is to try to stay within 3 digits, So how are we going to do that? Well, let's start over first. Start from the beginning, all right? And then go back to our table and really kind of examine the units here. So notice the populations are all, 83 million, 67 million, 65 million. They're in the millions. So that's the unit that I'm going to use to talk about these numbers. And it's a safe unit to use because every number is beyond, a million. So I'm going to make a note of that. It's not just population, but population in millions. So I'll change that in my description. So now when I talk about this number, I can actually write it out like this. So the comma after the 83 marks the millions point. So I'm going to say that's my millions point. So 83 point, and I'll round to 800,000. So 83.8 million people. That's for Germany, right? So I can write that number instead of all 8 digits for 83,700,000, blah, blah, blah. I can just write it as 83.8 million. All right. And that can be my units. So the number that I'll plug in for the graph is 83.8 now. And the same for United Kingdom, it would be 67.9, and France would be 65.3. I'm rounding up, noticing like that these numbers are rounding. Okay. So that's for population. It's in the millions. The size, the land size is not in the millions. It's in the thousands. So I'll use that as my unit for thousands, okay? And you can use hundreds of thousands too if you want to make it like even smaller, like 3.4. You can do that, but it's your call. So we're going to just pick the thousands. So we'll say response size. The response is the size, the land size. We'll be a little bit more specific on what size we're talking about, land size. And we'll say in thousands of kilometers squared. I'm going to use this because do area squared. And that's the unit that they gave me on the website. So that's where that kilometer squared. So now that it's in the thousands, I'm going to rewrite this as 348.6 thousand, right? Telling me that's 348,600, okay? And the next one, 241.9 thousand kilometers squared, right? Okay. And then the last one, 500 and okay. This works out, right? 547.6. So now when I go back to graph this, notice when I put my X, I'm just going to put 83.8. Right? And I can see it now. And now this one I'll put 30, what was it? I have to go back and forth, right? 348.6. 348.6. There it is. And it's within a window that I can manage. Okay. The next one, we'll just do the 3 and we can kind of see how it all plays out. 67.9 to 41. I think it was something like that. And go back and fix it if I need to. 65.3, 547.6. Okay. And then as you go and you go and you'll go and you'll see the points a little bit better. But make sure now that like the window noticed that France was a little bit larger in size, so that Y value went up a little bit. And you can always fix some of this by going to the wrench up at the top right corner there. So if you're looking over there, here in the x-axis, we're in a window right now already that's pretty good. Like all my numbers are in the 60s and 80s. So I'm good to keep it here, but you can change your view by changing these numbers. I can go from 40 to 90 if that's what I want to do. Okay. And for the Y, I can go up to 580, or I can go larger, right? I can go up to 600 if I need to, or 700. Okay. Depending on how far you need to go. And it'll change. All right. Always remember to get the labels in too. So this is how we want to put our labels in. It's population. And you say in millions. Since we've changed the units, not going up by one increment, right? And for the Y, it's land size, land area, if that's how you want to go. In thousands of kilometers squared. Now you've got your labels now. Okay, so obviously this is probably a little different than the context that you're in, but if the numbers are that big, start to think about how you can chunk it into thousands or millions if you need to, and make them decimals instead of huge long numbers. All right.